Hey, just a heads up, this video is going to be spoiler free, so no worries there, although it does contain like a minor, vague spoiler from Assassin's Creed Origins, which is the last game, the Egypt one. Enjoy! The Assassin's Creed series is a weird one. While the original game was by no means perfect, the series did find its stride with Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood as a Game of the Year worthy franchise.
It's me, Mario!
But after years of annual releases, a convoluted present-day backstory in each entry, and Ubisoft being Ubisoft, the series was looked at by certain audiences the same way that some people look at Call of Duty. You know, not a bad series really, but one that just really isn't taken seriously anymore and has burnt a lot of people out. And trust me, I'm guilty of that with the series myself, loving it at first and now ignoring it for years. Well, I'm here to tell you why you may want to give Assassin's Creed Odyssey another look. I haven't kept up with the Assassin's Creed series since after Black Flag, which I absolutely loved. After that, I think there was Unity and Rogue, both of which I skipped out on. Actually, I think everybody skipped Rogue. Syndicate was cool because you got to use a grappling hook, it had a cooler setting, and you got to play as a girl. After Syndicate, Ubisoft took a year off of their annual releases and kinda went back to the drawing board on the Assassin's Creed formula, which resulted in Assassin's Creed Origins. I really liked the direction that Origins was going with the loot system and the overhauled combat and movement, but the setting and the game's storytelling and world building kinda jarred me. The way it seemed to start the game in the middle of a series of events and then revealed what was going on through flashbacks just made it kinda hard for me to really care about sticking to a game that I was already kind of apprehensive about.
And I will kill you all! Everyone who sniffed the air that day in Siwa!
But when Odyssey was announced, I was all in from the start. The awesome Greek setting, the new RPG mechanics, I was actually excited for an Assassin's Creed game for the first time in years. And now it's upon us, so I thought I'd share some thoughts I have about the game after putting quite a bit of time into it since the Gold Edition early access date. Behind the wheel of the Animus in Assassin's Creed Odyssey is Layla Hassan, a former researcher at Abstergo who, after the events of Origins, is no longer part of Abstergo. Let's just go ahead and leave it at that in case you haven't played that game yet. Layla gets her hands on the Spear of Leonidas. Yes, that one. And returns to the Animus, with DNA traces found on the spear giving her the choice of following the paths of one of our two heroes, Alexios and Cassandra. I'm sure Alexios is great and all, but that's boring, so I went with Cassandra. Man, Cassandra is awesome. She's tough, fearless, and has muscles that would make Wonder Woman nervous.
Tell that one-eyed freak if he ever sends you here again, I'm gonna cut out his other eye and feed it to my bird.
And that voice she uses to shout commands at her ship crew. Oof. Love it. Regardless of which character you choose, your backstory is gonna be pretty much the same, which is pretty lame, but at least it's an interesting backstory. And while bits and pieces of it are introduced in flashbacks like in Origins, the beginning of the story is at least much more of a soft landing in comparison to the fiery explosion that was the beginning of Origins, which helped personally keep me invested instead of confused and put off. I think one thing that personally makes this game so interesting to me is, it's The Witcher now. It's basically just The Witcher. Okay, it isn't exactly The Witcher, but it is still fun. It's a fun open-world RPG. It takes the RPG-like loot system started in Origins, which is still maybe not as satisfying as loot hunting in Diablo or Borderlands, but it's still pretty nice considering it's an Assassin's Creed game. Odyssey even now adds in a very Witcher-esque conversation system. Seriously, if you look at it, it looks like it's The Witcher. Oh, and there's also an improved skill tree. In fact, this game goes balls to the wall fantasy RPG with some of the available skills, like adding poison damage to your weapons, setting your weapons on fire, turning invisible, and there's even like a Spartan Rage, like from God of War. Some of the old school, more traditional Assassin's Creed fans may be turned off by this, but frankly, I think it's pretty refreshing to see it in a series that at some points takes itself a little too seriously.
Hey, what's the matter you, Altair?
That's racist.
You're racist.
Throughout your role-playing adventures, you'll be given moments where you must make difficult decisions, and believe it or not, those decisions can actually have quite an influence on events later down the line. I'll avoid spoiling anything, but I'll just say that at one point I had a side quest where I had to decide whether or not to spare the lives of some characters. At the time, my decision seemed to lead to nothing more than ending a quest, only for me to later find out that decision had actually made an impact on the world, and I would be able to revisit the area just to see what kind of an impact it was. I have no idea if choosing the other decision would have led to a different outcome, or just the same outcome mildly altered like a lot of other games with choices have the problem with, but for now I know that I did make an impact, which gives me a good feeling for what else the game's new dialogue system has to offer in the hours to come. Running around, grabbing loot, setting things on fire, killing guards, setting yourself on fire, it's all a good time. But it won't be long before your murderous escapades and government-toppling deeds draw some unwanted attention your way. Which is where Odyssey's new mercenary system comes into play. After a while you'll gain a bounty on your head, working somewhat similar to the wanted system in GTA. You have a bounty meter ranging from 1 to 5 stars, or 1 to 5 helmets in this case. Once you hit 1 helmet, a mercenary is hired to hunt for you and collect the bounty on your head. The higher the bounty level, the more mercenaries come for you. These mercenaries can be pretty tough, and if you aren't careful you may run into mercenaries at a much higher level than you. It actually works a little bit like the Nemesis system from Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, but maybe not quite as fleshed out and interesting. In Shadow of Mordor, when you ran into a Nemesis orc, it felt like an event. A big climactic battle with an orc captain that had a lot of build-up leading up to this moment. In Odyssey, the mercenaries are just all kinda samey. While some of them may look a little weird, they don't really have any personality, instead just feeling like stronger versions of normal enemy soldiers in different armor and better loot. If you like the naval combat of Assassin's Creed 3 and Black Flag, rejoice because it is back, and it is still a nice diversion, adding a bit more variety to the mix. However, if you did not enjoy that aspect, this may not change your mind. It's pretty much the same. But don't let that turn you off to the game. In the time I've been playing, I haven't really felt forced at all into naval combat, with the exception of maybe one story mission so far, and instead the naval combat takes a nice backseat to the primary Assassin's Creed style gameplay. The game is far from perfect. As of right now, the game is pretty buggy. I've had guards fight off wild animals or set themselves on fire and then come looking for me as though I did it, even though before that, they didn't even know I existed. And the game sure does like to show you its load screen. A lot. At least on the PS4 version on a standard PS4. You just never know when talking to an NPC or recalling your drone-like pet eagle is going to prompt the game to go to a 5 to 20 second to eternity loading screen just to watch an in-game conversation, or simply help the game reload the area where you were before you sent your feathered friend to scope out the area. This eagle drone mechanic thing was also in Origins, which I played on PC, and I had never had that reloading issue using the eagle in that game. So it's hard to say if it's Odyssey itself, or if it's the PS4 version that has the loading issue. It's sometimes pretty annoying, but it's nothing that's gonna ruin the game, it's just something to be aware of. It's also kinda weird to me that you can't always just assassinate everyone you stealth attack. Until you increase your assassination damage, you just kinda stab some of the stronger enemies and leave them alive, alerting them, which then alerts other enemies nearby. I mean, it just kinda kills the stealth in the game if you were already attempting to be stealthy, only for the game to be like, JK! Fortunately, the game is nice enough to show you how much damage your stealth attack will deal before you decide to strike. But if you're like me and you're used to the traditional Assassin's Creed games, you're probably gonna forget that it's there and then you'll screw yourself up. Alright, I guess it's not the game's fault, it's more my fault, but I'm just not used to it, okay? Also, there are microtransactions. Because of course there are in a Ubisoft game. You can use real money to buy in-game gold, items, gear, and so on. Personally, I've never felt the need to purchase any of that stuff because I seem to get it all on my own just fine. I've heard of people talking about this game being grindy. I haven't really felt that. As long as you play the side quests and play the main story quests in the way you're supposed to play them. I mean, I've leveled up just doing quests. No problem. No grinding. It's a fun game, go play it. And that is Assassin's Creed Odyssey in a nutshell. Is it perfect? No, not by any means. But is it fun? Absolutely. I think if you like open world RPGs like The Witcher, Horizon Zero Dawn technically is an RPG, The Elder Scrolls, if you like those types of games, you should definitely give Assassin's Creed Odyssey a shot. If you've been saying no to Assassin's Creed for years like I have, this game might change your mind, because it's really not an Assassin's Creed game the way Assassin's Creed has been for years now, with the exception of Origins, which was sort of a stepping stone onto what Odyssey has become. And don't let that weirdly titled Polygon article turn you off. The game is fun from the start, so you should check it out. And so that's gonna do it for this video. If you liked it, please feel free to subscribe, hit that like button, maybe hit that little notification bell so you can join the notification squad. Hashtag do a subscribe. If you want to watch some more videos, I'm going to link some right here, as well as put a subscribe button right over my face that you can click on, like I tend to do, so you can subscribe right there. It's easy, it's perfect, I just set it up for you. It's like you don't even have to put any thought or effort into it, just click it, or tap it, if you're using a smartphone or a tablet, an iPad. Just do it. What are you waiting for? Come on. Don't have a watch.